Duress and Undue Influence. Introduction. In the realm of contract law, understanding the concepts of duress and undue influence is crucial for ensuring fair and voluntary agreements. These principles protect individuals and businesses from being forced into contracts through coercion or manipulation. By examining the various forms of duress and recognizing circumstances of undue influence, business students can better navigate the legal landscape of contracts and uphold ethical standards in their professional dealings. Learning objectives. Recognize that if a person makes an agreement under duress, being forced to enter a contract against his or her will, the agreement is void. Understand what undue influence is and what the typical circumstances are when it arises to make a contract voidable. Duress. When a person is forced to do something against their will, they are a victim of duress compulsion. There are two types of duress: physical duress and duress by improper threat. Contracts induced by physical violence are void. Physical duress. Physical duress occurs when a person is forced into a contract through threats of physical harm. According to the restatement, 2nd, of contracts, if someone's apparent agreement to a contract is compelled by physical force, the contract is void. This means that the contract is considered non-existent, as the person did not willingly agree to its terms. Example: if a person is physically threatened to sign a contract, such as being held at gunpoint, the contract is void due to physical duress. Duress by threat. Duress by threat is more common and involves improper threats that leave the victim with no reasonable alternative but to agree to the contract. This type of duress makes the contract voidable, meaning the victim can choose to either enforce or nullify the contract. Example: a supplier threatens to withhold essential goods unless the buyer agrees to pay a higher price than initially agreed. If the buyer cannot obtain these goods elsewhere, the threat could be considered duress by threat. Key elements. Improper threat. The threat must be unjust or illegal. No reasonable alternative. The victim must have no practical option but to agree. Subjective test for inducement. The victim's perception of the threat and their belief in the threatener's ability to carry out the threat are crucial. Undue influence. Undue influence arises when one party takes advantage of their position of power over another, using this power to unduly influence the latter's decision to enter into a contract. This often occurs in relationships where there is a significant imbalance of power, such as between employers and employees or caregivers and dependents. Contracts made under undue influence are voidable at the option of the influence party. Example: an elderly person is persuaded by their caregiver to sign over their property rights. If the elderly person later realizes they were unduly influenced, they can choose to void the contract. Conclusion. Understanding duress and undue influence is essential for business students to navigate contract law effectively. Recognizing the signs of coercion and manipulation helps ensure that all agreements are made fairly and voluntarily. By mastering these concepts, future business professionals can protect their interests and maintain ethical standards in their contractual dealings.